Videos because you guys know what time it is. You guys know what day it is. That time of year again when everyone tries to make fools, ghouls, and everyone drool with mini pranks. And so I thought I'd get in a little bit on the fun here and go a little bit off script this time around in terms of a potential what if that if you guys like enough, if you guys want to go forward, because what I'm going to be doing here is basically more so discussion rather than a what if. There will be probably like images and stuff on screen based on exactly what is going to be discussed. But if you guys do like it enough, and if you like the ideas and you can carry forward to a full video, I will make this an actual what if and continue it and do it properly. But we're going to just be discussing today, and I'm actually going to be discussing this potential what if with my man, the main myth and the legend, the Japanese man.
What's up?
That was fucking pathetic. He's actually not Japanese at all. That's just what he calls himself. He's unironically just black mixed with a little bit of Puerto Rican. Anywho.
Hey!
Anywho, let's go on and pretty much get into this. So, we're going to be discussing what if Bulma killed Goku
As a kid.
As a kid, yeah, with the bullet, right?
Yeah.
So, with the magic bullet. Now, we initially wanted to go about this in a more, how do you say, unique way, because we actually wanted to put some effort into it, but we realized since we're doing something goofy, because the whole point was to be as degenerate as possible without necessarily going into derangement. So we can be stupid because it's not going to really matter, but we can be stupid, but we just couldn't be too out there. We went through a whole mess of ideas. Like, what were some of the ideas that we went at?
Yeah, some of the ideas were crazy, like Tien being absorbed by Cell, or Vegeta being a woman.
Vegeta being a woman was actually the closest one, right? Because we did a poll.
Yeah.
And so that came down to the last two. The last two were, what if Bulma essentially shot Goku as a kid? And then the other one was, what if Vegeta, not necessarily became a woman, was essentially born as a woman? Because I wasn't going to do became a woman, because that'd just be too freaky deaky. Okay, yeah, that'd be a little bit too insane, a little bit too sus, as the children say. Anyway, I don't want to bog down the video too much because I don't want to get off topic. But yeah, we were discussing like a whole mess of stuff. So we actually even had another bullet one, but this time was going to be Raditz. But realize how stupid that'd be. Because with this one, you can argue it. And we'll get more into that a little bit later when we start to actually discuss it. But you can actually argue why Goku at this stage in his life, but Raditz at that stage in his life coming down, being just suddenly murdered by the farmer with a shotgun. Because that was a what if. What if farmer with a shotgun killed? And we realized that went into derangement. And that's what we were trying to avoid. We were like, it can be stupid, a bit silly,
degenerate,
but yeah.
Deranged like that? No.
Deranged? Absolutely not. And then what was it? Yeah, because we said Tien gets absorbed by Cell because he did what? Like, he jumped in to save 17, right?
Yeah, he jumped in 17 and Tien just got sucked up. And it was going to be crazy because he would get weaker and then he would get jumped up by 16 and 17. That's pretty much how that would have gone.
Yeah, like, because let's be honest, if you guys remember, like, old games, like, Budokai, right? So, if I'm not mistaken, that was the one that Krillin got sucked up in by Cell. Yeah, so, you guys already know. Essentially, that is a possibility, because in Dragon Ball, if you get absorbed, it really can dramatically affect somebody. Like when Buu absorbed, Gotenks and Piccolo, with Gotenks' power added to his own, he was strong. And Goku was like, oh, we need to fuse, right? He told Gohan that we essentially diffused, but once he came mostly Piccolo, that actually weakened Buu to a point to where even Super Saiyan 3, keep in mind, Super Saiyan 3 was not even comfortable taking on Super Buu, let alone taking on, Buhan or Buu tanks or anything like that. So when he became mostly Piccolo, he was like telling Gohan they don't even need to fuse anymore. It just goes to show you that when somebody absorbs or does absorption, it can essentially weaken you. And so most likely, Cell would have got significantly weaker. And we thought that ultimately fell into the arrangement because there is no through line. Like something like this can carry forward because there is potential there. So I guess we should go ahead and get into the discussion then. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the discussion because we did go over a lot of scenarios, but the one we kind of stuck with is the idea of Goku being just slightly weaker than normal. Because so initially, when Bulma actually shoots Goku, right, it wasn't like significant damage, but you could argue there wasn't enough damage. Not only was he off guard, not only did he not know about ki, because a lot of people tend, I don't want to get into a power trip about power scaling and all that, because a lot of people think that without ki, these characters are super weak, and it's just simply not true. Like, Saiyans are very tough naturally on their own. Yes, they can naturally tank bullets and stuff to the head and all that. And Goku was a low-class Saiyan, so imagine an elite Saiyan and stuff. And that's kind of like what we were saying earlier about Raditz, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and why we kind of just realized that went too much into the arrangement. Now, we understand that Raditz is a low-class warrior, but the same thing would apply to him. At the stage he is now, he's really like a mid-class. You can even argue that he's technically an elite. I know there's been a lot of debate about that going forward, about what makes an elite and things of that nature, but yeah, so just really arguing it isn't my point of this, but I'm just saying that all we had to do here, and that's what we decided on, was to lower Goku's durability. So, in lowering Goku's durability just slightly, we make that headshot the death shot.
Yeah. So, basically, the same thing that you already know pretty much happens. Where Goku knocks over the car, and Bulma just jumps out, and it's like, oh my god, what happened? And
yeah, and then she's so she's like, oh my god, this is a stupid kid. What are you doing here, dummy? And then she's like, oh, you little pervert, blah, blah, blah. You know, I don't actually remember her exact dialogue.
She's like, stupid boy, you destroyed my car or something like that.
Yeah, some nonsense like that. And then out of nowhere, she just pulls out the blicky, right? She just pulls out the 9 on a freaking infant.
Oh no, Jamal.
Yeah, Jamal, don't get the 9. But she basically just pulls it out, and it immediately just posterizes on Goku. So that's where the deviation in our story changes. So initially, he is proven to be too strong, he's too durable, and so it does, quote-unquote, sting, it does hurt him, but it doesn't do any real significant damage. But here, we're just lowering that durability slightly, and so here's the deviation. The bullet actually does penetrate Goku, and since that's where your brain is, I mean, and it's a headshot. It was a nice headshot. She had it dead center. So
yeah, she must have had some like game hacks or something. She did not miss.
Yeah, Bulma don't miss. Bulma crazy okay with it. So the fact is she does not miss again, and this time the bullet actually goes through Goku. Now, granted, ki training and stuff eventually could have gotten to the point to where you could have avoided this, but here we're just saying that essentially low class Saiyans have slightly lower durability. Like, if it had been anywhere else, it still probably would have penetrated Goku, but it wouldn't have done as much damage. So all we're saying is his durability is just slightly lower here, and that's most likely because he's a low-class Saiyan in this case. So it'll be different from, like, an elite, still. But nonetheless, it is lower enough to where she just ends up shooting this kid. And now she's just back where she started. And now I know what you guys are thinking, like, oh my god, well, isn't she going to get killed by the pterodactyl? Well, I don't think she does this time, okay? And to go into the reason why I don't think she gets killed by the pterodactyl is basically because I think that in this case, most likely to kind of like at least fit somewhat more into the scenario, she's able to, her car's not entirely totaled, right?
Yeah.
So it's still able to be, workable. And essentially, her car is like kind of super tiny. I'm not saying that she could have flipped it over by herself, but it wouldn't have taken, too long. So I think like maybe the pterodactyl comes at her. And I could be mixing this up because I do think that the pterodactyl did come like after her meeting Goku, and then he killed it for her, right?
Yeah, but like the pterodactyl came like right after Mom had already went to Grandpa's house, and Goku and them were talking. They had already like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But either way, so she gets back into her car, right? Let's just say it comes earlier then, but she gets back into her car, and then it flips it over, and then she just drives off, and it kind of goes away. Right, that'll be the last time we see it. Anyway, she essentially just keeps driving on the directions that she had. Because I'm assuming that, Goku did lead her back to his house, but I'm assuming that she would have got there either way. Because the fact that she got this far most likely means that she had like a map or something that she would have, essentially known the way.
I think she had like the radar.
She already had the radar? I didn't think she built that until later on.
Yeah. She built a radar. Yeah, because I remember, Bulma was talking to Goku and stuff. He's like, oh, I can help find the other Dragon Balls, and told her, or like, show panties, because she already had the radar and stuff.
Right. Okay, yeah, so she basically already knew where Dragon Ball was. And so she gets there, she ends up, getting the Dragon Ball, and then that's basically that. Now, going forward past that point, right, we get introduced into a few of our other titular characters. Now, the situation with Oolong basically would just go with Bulma showing her panties or whatever. I think she can get out of that situation really easily just by showing a bit of skin. Like, unless you have something different.
Yeah, I pretty much say, like, Oolong is like...
Yeah, because Oolong's not really a dangerous threat. His shapeshifting is more like illusions.
Yeah, Oolong just wanted to marry or
flying
girl.
And I don't think that Bulma would interfere with that. And she's far more cautious than Goku, and she's far more smarter. So she's not as naive and just walking into situations that could potentially get her killed. So she's gonna be far more terrified, especially when she hears about quote unquote the evil man who's gonna, the evil machine thing, demon who's gonna just take some girl, steal away from the village, blah blah blah. It's just not gonna happen. If at most Bulma shows some skin and Oolong just kind of like lets it slide, maybe she even tricks him into coming with her on the adventure to go get the Dragon Ball, saying like, oh, he can have all the girls he wants.
Or as soon as she hears that, she just immediately packs up and say, bumpy y'all, bumpy y'all.
Yeah, right. So there's many scenarios. Like she just either leaves the town, she shows some skin, or maybe the village girl just gets taken in, and that's just it. Bulma is just like, okay, who cares? And as far as the Yamcha situation, the only reason why they ended up in a dire situation with that was because Goku was there, right? Because they had to fight. But here, during this point in time, Yamcha was afraid of chicks. In fact, it's really Bulma who kind of, gets him to run away that first time around, right? Yeah, pretty much. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happened, because she kind of like, it's like, I'm a woman. And then, that's what happens. He just kind of like runs away. So him being here now, he may actually just join her. So Yamcha would be there a bit earlier, and you could argue that Oolong's there. For the sake of argument, I'll say that she basically tricks him into coming along. Because I think Oolong can be pretty beneficial still, and I don't think there's necessarily a problem with him coming along. So now we have Plar, we have Oolong, and we have Yamcha. And skipping ahead here, because there's nothing really of note that necessarily happens of importance to any significant degree, especially with Goku not being there, because a lot of the more dramatic stuff that they get into when it comes to fighting people and all that is strictly because Goku is there, right? And so without Goku to be, that type of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Catalyst?
Yeah, catalyst or trigger. So without Goku to be that type of, catalyst or trigger, then essentially they can kind of avoid a lot of those scenarios. And I think that over time, Yamcha would actually get over his fear of girls much quicker. Especially because Bulma's whole initial wish is to find a boyfriend. But I think this time around, and that's where we kind of went with the best case scenario, and it could potentially have Goku coming back, is the idea that Bulma has more and more. So her wish this time changes, right?
Yeah.
So instead of going out to get a boyfriend, she's like, I just shot this innocent kid, and all he was doing was living in a hut. And she becomes far more remorseful, right? Because she just reacted in that situation.
It's like, I just shot a monkey boy.
Okay, we don't need the racism, the racicism. But yeah, the whole point is she just shot, some little street urchin, some little Aladdin out there in the middle of the forest. And so that's gonna kind of be a big no-no for her. She's gonna be like, damn it, I gotta bring this kid back, right? He did not deserve to die. And so that's kind of like where we decided to take her on this road. And so that's her new wish. And in terms of everyone else, I don't think the wishes necessarily change all too much, or their internal desires.
Now, like Emperor Pilaf and them are like fighting them and stuff. I don't know. Would they be able to escape the prison still?
Yeah, I think in this case, in terms of escaping the prison, it might be a bit more difficult, but I think it's very plausible.
Yeah, because the prison was like made out of metal that they couldn't break through, right?
Yeah, so it was made out of some strong material, but you got to argue if they get trapped in there in the first place. Really, it's because Goku's kind of an idiot that they get essentially trapped in the first place. Because he's just going gun hold right through the castle.
And then Bulma gets taken, and everyone is like, "Oh no!"
But so Goku slips ups cause Bulma to essentially just get kidnapped, right? And she's being a bit goofy, but here where she'd be far more cautious, and with Yamcha being far more sensible, and he's still a strong protector. I mean, technically, you could argue at this point in the story he is stronger than Goku, at least when he's using the Wolfang Fist, which does give him an immense power up, and it's a heavy skill. I mean, because he is able to somewhat beat Goku. Okay. Yeah. So they're at least relative enough to each other, and then Oolong being there just adds more, cautiousness, because he may be a bit of a coward, but he's still quite intelligent. Okay, or at least he has more common sense. So, like I said, without Goku, this dynamic may be a bit better for them not getting caught. And in terms of dealing with the Pilaf gang after that fact, I still think that they would go for the wish. Because I think that the team would maybe escape the prison. I don't think they would get trapped in there because I don't think Bulma would get taken. But on the all chance I think they can still escape the prison by way of tricking them. Like, you can either trick Shu or Mai, and I think that they can get out that way.
And then basically the story would go out like the same from that point, except instead of wishing for the world's comfiest panties, Bulma would like, bring back Goku. Well, she doesn't know the kid's name, so she'd be like, bring back.
Yeah, she's be like, bring back that kid I shot. Right in the head.
And Goku would just wake up in the same area, with like a dead fish by him.
But that's what we were initially gonna be like. Okay, that's just where it ends, because the story goes the same.
Yeah.
From there. But we decided to actually change that around. So yes, Goku does still come back, and he kind of like just wakes up just randomly where he was shot. He was like, whoa, that's kind of weird.
Ew, the fish is decayed.
I know, he's just like sad because his meal is just gone now.
It's with the air now.
It's just gone away. So we decided this time to actually change it around, so that way the story doesn't just immediately go back into, okay, well, now it's going to be just a Goku show. So actually, this gave Bulma like a driving force, because over the time of this mission, she realized she was a burden. Because Oolong can't really fight. Like I said, it's really just intimidation that he has. And Yamcha, although he's a good fighter, he's not good enough, especially because for a long time during some of the more dicier parts of the mission, he was too afraid of Bulma. So every time she was around, he would seize up and hesitate, and that got them into some trouble. But they still managed to get out of it. She realized that, God damn it, I need something more than this, right? Yeah. I have a lot of brain power, but I don't have a lot of physical power.
Yeah, so like Bulma and Yamcha go back to like her home in West City, and she's like over there crying to Yamcha, like, Yamcha, I'm so weak. What can I do?
Yeah, she essentially asked for training. Now, Yamcha's a bit more hesitant because he's not really a master type, okay? So he would. I think he would, right? Wouldn't you say he would?
Yeah.
Because by this point, he is over his fear, and he does like her, so I think he would.
And basically, they're like dating at this point.
Right? Yeah. So they're kind of like in a relationship. It's really wonky because neither the manga nor the show really. And I won't even blame Toriyama, but I know he has kind of like uttered the idea that he's not really good at writing relationships necessarily, or at least he doesn't really give them the time or focus as much as the other elements of the story. So, it's understandable because only certain relationships take precedence in the story, especially going throughout Dragon Ball particularly. But then, when we're going to Dragon Ball Z, there is more of that dynamic, but it's not really something that's entirely focused on, at least like it would be in certain other stories. So, they are kind of dating, but, Yamcha's still a bit of a player because now that he's over his fear. But he's going to stick around with Bulma a little bit more. And so he starts essentially training her. Or he would start training her, because we gotta actually go back to Mount Palsy, because Bulma's just not gonna leave this kid. She's gonna make sure her wish came true, because the kid didn't even show up, right? He didn't show up where they were, so she's gotta make sure her wish came true. And so this will actually rope Goku into the story, because him and Yamcha, get off on the wrong foot, because it rolls back up, right? Bulma and Yamcha roll back up, and it's like, oh my god, he is alive, and then here goes Goku, like, you're the bitch that shot. Yeah, he just goes up there and starts trying to run her fade, but Yamcha jumps in the way, and I would say that Yamcha actually beats Goku this time around, because over the journey he would have gotten a bit stronger. I think he would have just gotten strong enough, and they were already rivals when they first met, but this time around, he definitely would have just the advantage over Goku. And this was actually prompt Goku, and there's a reason why I say this, because it actually prompt Goku to want to get into training too, because he's like, whoa, man, this guy's really strong. And, he's probably thinking, like, Bulma's actually pretty strong too, even though, it's like, no, she's not. At least not right now. But this only encourages Bulma more. This only spurs her on, because she's like, these two can freaking fight like this? I've got nothing.
Nigga, I'm dead.
she's like, the next person that rolls up and tries to run our pockets, they just gonna take me. I mean, keep in mind, even if she wasn't kidnapped, regardless of how you feel, and like I said, this becomes a full story. I'll flesh it out a bit more. But even if she wasn't kidnapped, she would have been almost kidnapped and realized she couldn't have done nothing if she was. And then they would have gotten trapped in that prison. The story kind of would just ended right there, unless they, like I said, trick Mai or Shu. Maybe you can even trick Pilaf. But they would have to kind of like
show Pilaf a little bit of that patty.
Yeah, just give him a little bit of that good. But nevertheless, they would actually begin to train. And so I think here the deviation would be they won't meet Master Roshi at first. But that's only because Bulma has a lot of technology. I'm not saying they're doing something crazy like the gravity room, because let's be honest, every one of them would die instantly.
Yeah, it would just be that scene when Yamcha tried to do it.
Yeah, essentially that, but far worse. It just gets immediately crushed on them. However, in this case, I would say that they do not meet Master Roshi yet, but she does have technology that can kind of help them train. But it's just going to be a bunch of bots, robots, droids, and all that, and whatever her father can kind of like help her cook up with. And they all get pretty stronger, but none of them really have access to, more powerful ki. And so Bulma kind of does learn a lot of, techniques and stuff like that from Goku, and Yamcha, but that's pretty much it. I think the other part would be them having to now go out and seek. And so that's when Bulma would use, again, her ability to research and look into things.
And I think Yamcha, going off of, Yamcha was there during Fire Mountain, right? And he already knew about Master Roshi. He's like, oh my god, that's Master Roshi.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Bulma would basically use, and she would start researching, like, okay, we got to find some way to get stronger. Maybe there's some, like, ancient teachings or ancient masters. And the second she says that, that's when, Yamcha kind of, like, brings the idea, like, oh, well, I did hear of some martial arts masters. And, because Yamcha, by the time we meet him, this is not necessarily said right at the beginning, but he was looking for, higher masters. I think he was looking for Master Roshi, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's why when he's like at Fire Mountain, it's like, oh my god, that's Master Roshi's famous Kamehameha way.
Yeah, so he's basically a martial arts enthusiast, and once they come upon that, they're like, oh, Master Roshi, yeah, he was like the strongest guy for like 50 years straight. So that's when basically Bulma uses her brain, and then they go and seek him out. So it's all three of them, and this time all three of them are going to join the Turtle School, along with, you guessed it, Krillin, because Krillin was still just show up. He would still be introduced into the story.
Krillin would be there much earlier. Anyway.
Yeah, so actually, and that's a fun fact. I'm glad you brought that up, because actually when they go there, Krillin's already a student. Okay, because this whole journey would have took them around the time, including the training and, going to meet up with Goku and all that. It would have took them around the time that Krillin would have showed up ready for training. So Krillin's actually already been training. And so he's further ahead than any of them. And actually, I would say that at this point in time, like in one of my other what-ifs that you guys should definitely go and check out, Krillin, shameless plug there, but Krillin would be the strongest. And so instead of having to, like, show dirty magazines or whatever, I think that they would just kind of, like, once again, Bulma just uses that sex appeal, and it's like, train us and I'll give you my panties, or, some nonsense like that. Anyway, but no, so basically, yeah, she just shows her panties, she shows a little bit of skin, and Master Roshi's like, okay, yeah, I'll train you, no problem. But either way, they start learning in the Turtle School way, and I think that everyone actually is much stronger by the time we get to the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai. Everyone's going to actually be much stronger than what they were originally in canon, because you have so many training partners here, and with so many students and with so many training partners, it's going to be far better for them.
Yeah, and Master Roshi will have to train harder himself.
Yeah, just to keep up, because keep in mind, the whole point of Master Roshi initially going there, and even doing the whole Jackie Chun thing, or even potentially fighting any of them, was because he didn't want them to become too comfortable with their strength. Because he wanted them to realize and recognize the idea that there are always bigger and badder people out there. And we can see this in moments. Like in the original, Goku basically almost kills a whole-grown nigga by tapping him on the ankle, just completely messes him up, put him in a hospital. He has to tell Krillin, like, okay, bro, we can't sit here and fold these niggas like we're Madara going against the Shinobi Alliance.
Shut up.
We can't put on the Black Air Forces.
You gotta be calm. And this is not tickets, please.
Yeah, this isn't Goku. Okay. So yeah, everyone would be initially stronger than canon. I think that Master Roshi would have to get stronger. It's like no way he can say
Master Roshi's like, that's enough training for you today. And when they all asleep, he just goes out there.
Yeah, he just hit the gym.
Something.
Right, he's doing like Frieza, just slam at that thing 4 months straight. maybe he develops his Ultra Instinct. He becomes a god. No, I'm just joking. But yeah, as far as like any connections that are developed between them, I think that Goku and Krillin would still have their friendship and actually become, strong. Their bond would still be strong. And as far as Yamcha's concerned, I think him and Bulma actually get a bit, more together here, and it actually may cool down Yamcha's more cheating habits. But in terms of like other outside characters, like, potentially Goku meeting Chi-Chi and all that, well, for them to have met them, I mean, you could argue that maybe Ox King sends her over. I don't think he would, though. Right.
Yeah, you could just say, if you really wanted to stretch it, like Fire Mountain still happens in Ox King. It's like, oh, Master Roshi, you're my master. Can you help us real quick or something? Or
yeah, it would be like he had to somehow call out to them and say that this is happening. I mean, otherwise, you just have Chi-Chi and Ox King kind of die along with their kingdom, which I think that's basically what we would go with there. Because I know, a bit dark, but if I'm just being realistic,
wait, they wouldn't have to get launch.
No, they wouldn't have, no, because launch would just come later. So I mean,
would Krillin still have to get like launch for Master Roshi for his own thing?
Yeah,
that earlier.
Yeah, so I mean, but it's different with launch than it is with Chi-Chi, because they kind of just die. Like, there's no way he's gonna be putting out that fire. And even if the Ox King did send out like an SOS, like, oh, Jesus Christ, Master Roshi, please, for the love of Kami, come and help us out. I mean, would they get there in time before essentially everyone burned up and died? I don't think so. So I think in this scenario, unfortunately, the Ox King and Chi-Chi definitely are just going to be dead. Because initially, with the whole finding Chi-Chi, that was kind of like a Goku thing. So it's just not going to happen that way. They're not going to, because Goku's dead at that point. So it's just not going to happen like that. You know what I mean. It's just, there's no real way to sell it from a logistics standpoint. So unfortunately, that means, yeah, they're just dead. I mean, maybe you can argue they escaped, but they won't really be returning to the story, especially because Chi-Chi had no interactions with any of the cast. So no marrying Yamcha, no marrying Goku. But other than that, yeah, their training goes pretty smoothly, and they all get super buffed. They all get they all get superfied, if you know what I mean.
Superfied.
And so going through the 21st tournament is just going to be a breeze. Look, I can try my best to argue the idea that any of the combatants stand a chance, but they just don't. I mean, then with everyone being much more smarter fighters here, because Bulma, her tactical genius, I think that she'd be able to help everyone be more proficient in terms of using their techniques and stuff like that. So Krillin would be aware that he doesn't have a nose and things of that nature, so he can kind of just, fight bacteria and all that. So that's just, nothing's really going to change. It's only really going to change around when they have to fight each other. And so I think that the first match of where they're fighting each other will actually be Goku versus Bulma. So we're gonna get a proper fight between them, because last time she just rolled up on this man and just ended his career. Just ended his career. I mean, she kind of tried to taunt him with this, trying to bring it up, but it's in a more friendly way, and Goku just ain't caring. He ain't got time for that. He does want to get his revenge. She only makes him angry, and then, waffle stump. No, she does put up quite hell of a fight. She even sneaks up on Goku a few times with the after image. Really, she's the most gifted of the technical, in terms of technical fighting, because she definitely would have the better uses of every technique that they learned from Master Roshi. So she'd be busting out after images. She'd definitely be hitting him with that wolf feint fist, because she would have learned it from Yamcha. Maybe the Thunder Shock Surprise, because I don't know. I think a lot of those moves Master Roshi kind of introduced right then and there. Yeah, so they didn't know about them. They had to counter them on the fly. But yeah, in terms of that fight, I think that Goku would still ultimately come out on top, because he would just be, at that point, much stronger, much faster. And yes, don't worry, guys. I know some people may be trying to ask, oh, is he going to get taken out by bullets again? No, by this point, he has increased his durability. And, of course, he does have Ki to also further enhance him as well. So, yeah, he just kind of wins. It's a dragged out fight somewhat, and it's kind of very reminiscent of the fight between him and Krillin, where Krillin shows off a lot of good techniques that keep him in the game, and he does show off a lot of skill, but ultimately Goku is just, better, and he's able to adapt more quickly.
And then, the next one over is, Yamcha.
Yes, it's just Yamcha versus Krillin, and I think this one actually goes into Yamcha's favor a little bit. I know. We started off with Krillin being the stronger of the two, but I think Yamcha's actually slept on a lot because of how memed he is inside the community, but he's actually really powerful. Unironically, you can even argue that he might be on that end of Dragon Ball Z level by the time we see him in Super again, because when he's taking on the Goon Squad from Moro's gang, I mean, he's basically kind of folding a bunch of characters that are doing work against even people like Tien. So, I mean, he's kind of folding them. He does bring up the whole idea of training, how Gohan and Piccolo were training. So there are people who speculate that he might have got in on that. And so you could argue that he has a lot of high potential that he just doesn't get a chance to use.
Yeah, but then again, it's Dragon Ball Super you're talking about, so.
Yeah, I know, but it's only fair to say that some things would stay consistent.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, even like we said, when we first see Yamcha, he's already kind of near Goku's level.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If not, potentially maybe even stronger than him, you could argue. So I think it's fair to say that he would actually have a little bit of the advantage in this fight, but it doesn't guarantee him a win. I think that ultimately, Krillin still ends up winning. And that's merely because he's had longer time to study under these techniques. And so he actually may know some more of Master Roshi's techniques, like the Lullaby Punch and the Drunken Fist. But that's really speculation. I could argue that he does, because he spent longer time with Master Roshi. And being his only student, or not only student, but being his only student at the time definitely would have been a nice big help to him.
Yeah, but with those extra skills, he might be slightly weaker than Yamcha, but with those extra skill advantages, I'd have to give him the W.
Yeah, I just say that Yamcha does go in with a bit of an advantage, because I definitely think he has higher potential. But that's only going to get him so far, okay, when it comes to pure skill. And then now we have Jackie Chun, and that's going to be essentially Jackie Chun versus both Krillin and kind of like Goku. But which one he'll end up facing in the end, I think it's going to go down to ending this battle the same way it does in canon. So I kind of see him going up against Krillin and still defeating him, and then going up against Goku, and this time actually losing. But he doesn't need to inject the lesson to Goku, because Goku already knows it. Keep in mind, he spent 3 years with a bunch of strong people who, arguably, Yamcha, when he first met him, he straight up lost. And he already had a high opinion of Bulma, and then only see her progress, and then actually fighting her and seeing how skilled she was, and then knowing that Krillin was stronger than them when they got to the island. So yeah, Goku doesn't really need that lesson. He knows there are stronger people out there, and so he's not going to stagnate. Neither is everyone else, because they did end up losing. especially when they lost to their fellow students. So that's kind of where we're stopping and capping this off right now. That's pretty much because we both agreed that anything past that point would just be getting into a very more deep discussion that we would have to really sit down and think through and kind of like work out. So yeah, it's gonna kind of like end right here. But like I said, I definitely would be willing to sit down, and so you guys can forgive a lot of the gaps because this is just basically unscripted, and we're just kind of like shooting. We're kind of like shooting shit. So it's not it's not gonna really matter all too much. But if you guys do like it, comments, likes, all of that. If it gets enough, if I see enough, fanfare for it, then yeah, I will sit down and make this like an actual full thing. And you guys can actually let me know down in the comments some ideas of your own, not only for future what ifs, but potentially even for this what if you do want to go for it, like give me some ideas of what you think could be added to the story. And I will definitely be looking at all the comments.
Yep.
Anyway, with that, once again, it's been your resident Gummy Bear King, and you guys already know me, and the Japanese fake Asian, but really black / Puerto Rican man. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace. To all my Gummy Knights, new and old, just remember, this is a man's world, but it would be nothing without his brain and his bronze. And lying is indeed the most fun that a woman can have without taking off her clothes. Good night. スーパー紳士超ハウジ名前も知らないおたまにまたがり Hero Sound ネオンモンスターかき混ぜてたちまち仕上がり不思議なストーリー